Okay, hello everyone, it's Adam here. Just wanted to make sure everything was clean before I started this video. We are at beautiful Mascoma Lake in Enfield, New Hampshire, and it's a few miles from where I'm living. And I wanted to show you the view we have today. So we've got some bob houses out. Obviously the power lines are in the way, but it's a nice view. It actually was fun getting up here because this is straight ice, and getting up this hill here was fun. I mean, the car did fine, but just it was a nice ride up. So I'm doing a quick video, hopefully quick, at least by my standards, of what's going on with the house. So obviously got the car washed at the normal car wash, didn't hand wash it. It's 25 degrees, January 17th. The house is about 2 weeks from completion. So I wanted to talk a bit about where we are with things, most importantly around the budget. So hope this angle works out okay. So what's going on is I'm using this from memory here. We're about $20,000 over budget. 20. Maybe I'll turn around here so you can get a better view. And so the way this works is I bought a house for $94,500 after I got about $3,000 reduced because the possibility that the propane forced air furnace might be compromised because the previous owners never changed the filter. They never cleaned it. It had like 2 inches thick cat hair. So we got $3,000 off the selling price or asking price. Foreclosure, built in 1930. It was a camp. The previous owners put off $50,000 into it, raising it and putting a basement, a full poured concrete basement, and replacing the roof. And I ended up doing $60,000 in a renovation loan, which would be in gutting, the walls, gutting most of the house, only doing a little bit of changes to the electrical, a little bit of changes to the plumbing, reusing some of the flooring, not doing any exterior work except for cleaning up some of the stucco and paint that's chipping off from the top of the house. The way the loan works is when you ask for $60,000, you have to submit a general contractor quote for that amount. He has to submit all of his subcontractors, his license information, his insurance information. The bank approves him to do it. I spend about $200 or $250 for the home inspection, another $400 for a FHA inspection. And that person mostly just looks at what I'm going to do to the house, and they give a quote on what the house is going to be worth after the work is done. So that way the bank isn't loaning out more than the house is going to be worth when the construction is done. And then finally, I spent an extra $1,000 roughly out of my loan for a guy to come out and make sure the contractor is doing what he said he's going to do. And over the course of 5 visits, my guy allows or approves of various payments getting sent out. So 5 draws basically at $250 per visit. It comes out of my pocket, but basically this guy's got my back. He's watching the bank's money, and he's watching my money to make sure that the windows were done properly, the framing was done properly, electrical's up to code, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how the process works. So, but for the $60,000, the bank requires you at a 15% contingency on top of that for unexpected things. So I think about $9,700 was added as a contingency to make sure that if something comes up that's unexpected, we could still do it out of the loan, and if that way I'm not getting the house foreclosed upon again, because I can't afford to basically pay for something that wasn't expected. But anything beyond that is on me. So if it's $20,000 over budget, that's out of pocket for me. That's pretty much where we are. That's a summary of kind of the way this whole thing is structured. So $94,500 is the sales price, $69,750 for the renovation loan, including contingency. And we've done 2 draws so far with the bank. One for just pre-ordering the cabinetry and the windows, and then one for about $25,000 worth of work that was done. And then we're about to do the 3rd draw very soon. What has happened is we've had a lot of things come up unexpectedly that were not in the original quote. Some things are the fault of my builder. Other things were on the fault of God, I guess. I'll change the view for you guys so you can not stare at my ugly mug the whole time, but I'll keep talking here. So, a lot of unexpected things happened and came up. The first thing unexpected, well, this is actually out of order. But let's go to the things that I asked for, which was we were going to cover where the old kitchen was. We were going to cover that kitchen, turn that kitchen into a bathroom, which means covering the old kitchen window with a bathtub / shower. So I said, hey, that's a perfectly good window. Can you move that over to the kitchen, which has no window right now? So that was $900 out of, you know, extra for them to do that. Not previously in the quote. I'll go through these one by one, I guess. So the second thing would be I had asked for a more energy efficient front door that wasn't previously in the budget, so that was an extra $700. The door wasn't in the budget to be replaced. It should have been in the budget, but it wasn't. I kind of blame the contractor for that one, but that's $700. I also asked it to move where the attic entrance or crawl space is from the bedroom into the walk-in closet. That was another $100 in framing and time and labor. Yes, and then unexpected stuff. So when we took the front windows out, we noticed the wall was basically rotten and just falling apart. So that was $2,300 over budget to replace that front wall that was rotten. Unexpected, you know, had to happen though. I mean, the inspector just required it. When we did the front windows for the second bedroom addition, which was added way after the house was built, we noticed that there wasn't sheetrock. It was some kind of plywood that had been wallpapered 15 times. There were no plugs in that room. There was no light in that room, and behind that plywood was, or not sheetrock, particle board, was no insulation at all. So that was an extra $2,000. And while we were in there, it would cost more labor to refinish those wood floors, so we had to buy another $300 out of pocket of flooring to just resurface that. Bamboo click lock, same as the rest of the house, just different color. Whenever we got into the electrical, it wasn't just a few plugs and a few fixtures that had to be replaced. The whole house had to be gutted of all the electrical work. It was a rat's nest, so that was an extra $3,500 over budget. I thought we could reuse the ventilation for the HVAC for the pushed air furnace. Turns out we couldn't. The previous owners had done it so well, taped it all together and glued it together so well that when we took it apart, it just came apart. So that's $3,500 over budget for new ventilation. This is ventilation that's just to push hot air. If I want to add central air or cold air through, I've got to insulate that. That's an extra $2,000. And right now, it's on me to decide if I want to spend $3,500 to reventilate or $5,500 to reventilate, depending on if I want to add, pushed cold air through at some point in the future. Plumbing was going to be about $7,000. It ended up being $9,600 because my contractor never added a quote or added the requirement of getting a washer dryer hookup. I added a utility sink on myself, and there were a couple of plumbing issues, like my fridge has filtered water. I got a garbage disposal. I ended up doing a dishwasher. I asked for an outside spigot, which also wasn't in the quote. Another electrical addition was I asked for an outside electrical hookup, which also wasn't in the quote, and some outside light fixtures. So that ended up ballooning quite a bit. We had to replace the flooring, subfloor where the old kitchen was, because that was rotten, which came out of nowhere. Almost done. I'm thinking if there's anything else that I forgot here. I can't remember. Oh, last thing, big one. My contractor never caught this, the building inspector never caught this, but basically the initial quote was we're going to spend $35,000 for a rehab loan, which it was a 2 or 3K streamline, meaning no structural work can be done, which obviously I'm so glad we didn't, because the place needed to be reframed and it was structurally out the ass. Sorry for my language. We did a full 2 or 3K, which allows us to do structural work. The reason we switched to that is because the bank inspector, the FHA inspector, came out and said, you need 2 forms of egress in this house. The only one was a front door. And I'm like, well, there's a walkout basement, so could we just build stairs? And they said, yes, but you can't do this 2 or 3K. You got to do the full 2 or 3K, but then if you do stairs, yes, we'll accept that as 2 forms of egress. What no one seemed to call until way into the process of renovation, I mean, everything's signed and dotted and all approved, the loan is set, was that by building stairs into the basement is now considered to be livable space or occupiable space, which means that the foam board exposed in the basement was not up to fire code, which means we had to put up sheetrock in the basement at the tune of $2,500 for sheetrock and labor. Yeah, seriously. And the only reason we saved money on this was actually, we were supposed to have a sheetrock the entire perimeter, but we worked with the building inspector and he allowed us to frame in the utility area where the furnace, the hot water heater, the washer dryer, the utility sink, and my chest freezer are going to be, my food freezer. He won't make a sheetrock behind the furnace. We'll have to sheetrock the utility room outside. So be a little bit cheaper to sheetrock onto wood as opposed to doing straps against the foam board and sheetrocking over that. So a little bit of cost savings there, but not much. It's starting to get cold out here. I'm wearing short sleeves, obviously. So there may be a couple things I'm missing here, but basically what ended up happening is it ended up being about 20 grand over the initial 60,000. Now, luckily, 10,000 of that comes out of our contingency, which Heather and I were hoping to use to finish the basement, but whatever. Oh, one last thing I'll add, though, is that we did find a compromise. I want to give you guys another view again. We did find a compromise, which is there's a fire-rated paint that we can do. We can paint the foam board with this foam coat 50-50A, and this allows us to not have to sheetrock the basement for $2,500 or whatever it was. But the paint itself is $500 before we even count supplies, and then Heather and I are going to paint it. So Heather and I are still trying to decide if we're going to sheetrock the basement or just paint it. The problem is she and I plan on finishing the basement anyway, so it's almost like, why spend $500 on paint when you can spend an extra $2 grand and get it actually sheetrocked? But that's still TBD, to be honest, because right now I owe my contractor about $11,000-$12,000 after the contingency kicks in. So what we have here is a $60,000 project that turned out to be about $82,000. That's with doing everything, not painting the basement, but sheetrocking it. So we're kind of in a situation now. I mean, I borrowed some money from my grandmother. I borrowed $7 grand from her. And just a backstory, though, I don't have a wealthy family. I've never received a loan from my family except for once before from her. I didn't go to college. I never borrowed money to move out. I moved across country by myself. I'm self-funded. I never have used money from my family except for buying a car 6 years ago, where I borrowed $5,000 from her for a down payment on my first Golf R, in which I paid her back within 3 months. And then I borrowed another bit of money from her this year, which I'll pay back in monthly $1,000 installments, basically, until we're all paid off. But it's a hard choice for me to make, to borrow money from her, but at the same time I can't owe a contractor any money, and it's a tough situation. And then on top of that, I'll probably owe about $4,000 or $5,000 to my contractor, which thankfully we're buying everything for the house Energy Star, so we'll get back quite a bit of money, from the windows, the hot water heater, the solar installation will be a bit back, insulation, doors, appliances, all this stuff gets rebates. The LED lighting built in and bulbs has state and federal rebates, so we will get about $4,000 or $5,000 back in taxes. So I'll be able to pay everyone back, and I think when you summarize it, I don't actually, I've got for a future video, I've got issues with this contractor, not in his character. He's a great guy. He's a very honest guy. He's a great guy. He, for what it's worth to some of you out there, he's a good Christian man. I know that's difficult to say on the internet, and I even have to scoff at it myself because I'm not Christian. But he's always been honest with me. He's a very trustworthy guy, and his workers are quality guys. But the problem I've had with him all along is that he doesn't shop around. He uses the same vendors for everything. I mean, $9,000 for plumbing, a 750 square foot house, $6,000 for electrical for that house, $3,500 for ventilation for a 1-floor house, $80,000 to renovate a 750 square foot house. It's a lot of money. And now we're nixing things like we're not doing fir stairs, we're not doing granite countertops, just to be able to meet this budget. We're also doing the painting ourselves to get under budget. So I think he has a problem with spending too much money, and unfortunately with the way the contract is laid out with the bank, I can't change subcontractors. I can't tell Matt to go to a different HVAC guy or a different plumbing guy or electrician or heating. I can't tell him to do that because these guys have already been approved by the bank. But it's difficult to deal with the financial pressures, because even though we'll be able to pay everyone back this year, my grandmother and the contractor will be paid off by August. The unfortunate element to all this is that I still have to, I had to skip things I was going to do this year. We were going to add central AC to the box to the house. We were going to add a patio area. We were going to add a front deck. We were going to do landscaping, a retaining wall. We were going to do all kinds of things to the outside to make it more livable. We were going to finish the basement with the home theater and the beer cellar. And all that is kicked out completely until next spring, which sucks. It really, really does suck. And I think about 5 or 6 grand worth of these overages could have been avoided by my contractor thinking ahead and thinking, hey, they're probably going to want a washer dryer hookup, or they're probably going to need this or that. And I could have borrowed 10 grand more as a part of the loan easily for, you know, a few bucks extra a month over the 30 years and done this without having to be completely SOL. And the rest of it was just unavoidable. So I guess this is kind of a word of advice. You know, we're buying an old house. You never really know what's behind the walls. You don't know how much rot is back there, how much insulation is back there, the electrical work. You just have no idea. So I'm going over to the house now to go over some more stuff. But I guess this is more of a financial update. And if I get a bonus at work this year, then all this is kind of a moot point. But if I don't get a bonus this year, then it's going to be a very cheap summer for me. So as always, thanks for watching. I'm freezing. It's 36 degrees right now, which seems actually kind of warm, but I'm gonna get back in the car and hopefully get down this icy hill here without sliding into traffic and hitting someone. But you know, I guess the next update will be whenever the plumbing is done, so you guys can get a view of that. But just as a summary or wrap up, being 20,000 plus over budget in a 60 grand project is, I feel like partially was unavoidable. So I don't really know what to say, what to add on to this, other than, you know, just be careful. Try to get a contractor who doesn't use vendors that are, or subcontractors that are just crazy expensive. Maybe go to the vendors he's going to recommend you go to and have them price things out for you before you even sign a contract, because like everything, countertops, cabinets, bathroom fixtures, light fixtures, everything that we've been quoted has been significantly cheaper elsewhere. And it's not like this $850 water heater that's going to be, you know, $950 because the plumber has to have a margin. It's like, here's an $850 water heater on Home Depot or Amazon or Lowe's that this guy wants $1,400 for. And stomaching that when you're already knowing that you're 18 or 20 grand over budget, it sucks. It sucks big time. So, you know, this is one of those videos, I don't know. I had to do it for my own posterity or documentation, just so I could share with you guys, you know, what I've been through. And I hope that you help someone else out that's thinking about doing a big renovation like this. But the advantage is, in a year, I'll have a home that was built to my spec, that'll have all of my little niceties that I've wanted in a home for many years now. So, you know, there are pros and cons to this, but you never know what's behind the wall whenever you start tearing into these houses. So, thank you again for watching. I know this is probably 18 or 20 minutes long, but it is nice to be able to have a sounding board like this for all of you. And next video will be a real construction update. All right, so have a good day. Thanks so much, and stay warm out there. Bye, everyone.